The first incarnation of the PlayStation, nicknamed the Nintendo PlayStation, in order to be distinguished from the 1994 console of the same name, is a prototype developed by Sony in collaboration with Nintendo. It was designed as a hybrid console compatible with Nintendo Super NES cartridges, as well as Sony's new CD-based Super Disc format. The console ultimately went unreleased. Nintendo found out that Sony was planning to backstab them by obtaining most of the profits and leaving Nintendo next to nothing. When Philips got the offer from Nintendo, they immediately said yes. In June of 1991, Sony went to the Consumer Electronics Show to announce their partnership with Nintendo, and said that they were developing a new console add-on to the Super NES, the PlayStation. When journalists and others asked about the PlayStation add-on, Nintendo said that the Super Disc was being developed by Philips, not Sony. That's when Sony decided to just make their own console, the PlayStation. And if Nintendo didn't cancel the CD-ROM add-on, the PlayStation would probably have never came out.
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare has arrived.
Pack up your stuff. I got a little surprise for you here.
Check it out. What do you think about that? We got real-time, 3D, lush organic environments. How's that make you feel, buddy?
Feel a little like your days are numbered?
With the educational portion of this video done, let's continue. The PlayStation 1 was a console way ahead of its time, with a whopping lifespan of 12 years. Sony definitely made a big impact on the console gaming scene with launching the first console that would play games directly from a CD, instead of the outdated traditional cartridges. What made the PlayStation 1 stand out was the black layered CDs, which was an attempt to stop piracy. Eventually, it made no difference, as the PlayStation 1 security was easily beaten by using a mod chip. Sony later learned their lesson and made the PlayStation 2 security a bit harder, but it too was also beaten by using a mod chip which was extremely difficult to install. The console launched with titles such as Rayman, Ridge Racer, Total Eclipse Turbo, Power Surf 3D Tennis, Battle Arena, and others. But games like Gran Turismo, Final Fantasy VII, Tekken 3, Tomb Raider, Crash Bandicoot, Resident Evil, Tony Hawk, Pro Skater, Driver, Spyro the Dragon and many more titles made sure to make the PlayStation 1 one of the best consoles available on the market at that time. Till this day, the Sony PlayStation 1 remains the king of all other consoles and would continue to hold on to that crown for many years to come. All this thinking about the PlayStation 1 made me feel nostalgic and hyped. So recently I have taken out my PlayStation 1 from storage to play some of my childhood games. When I hooked it up to my TV, it was not as I remembered it. The analog signal was outdated compared to HD, and there was a problem with the laser. Due to age and fatigue, the laser was not reading discs. Using the trick that involved flipping the console on the other side worked, but still, it would stutter and lag. This was not a permanent solution, so I tried finding a new laser. All new lasers were Chinese knockoffs of poor quality, so why bother to change when it will fail again as the original one from the console? I tried to find an old stock one, but it was impossible. Left devastated and sad, I came up with a solution. I went to my local flea market and I was able to find this console which will be sacrificed for my project. The plan was to remove the internal parts and replace them with a Raspberry Pi. For this project, I bought a Raspberry Pi 2 Model B, a voltage regulator as I will be using the original power supply from a console, a cheap controller adapter from AliExpress to use the original joystick parts, and lastly an HDMI and USB adapters which I will be modifying them to fit the custom brackets from the console. So I think this is a good investment in my point of view, and it would make for a quite interesting and challenging project. Let's start disassembling it and build a new console, so to speak, from scratch. Here you can see I have removed the internal parts from the adapters, and with small drops of superglue I have managed to make them fit in the original brackets, which I removed from a motherboard. For the USB I salvaged the port from an old notebook, and with a little bit of soldering it was complete and looking promising. I've kept the original ports from the console, and using this cheap adapter I will be able to keep the aesthetic and functionality of the original joystick ports. It is a matter of disassembling the adapter and soldering the wires to the corresponding point. Here I was struggling with the power supply. As soon as I connected the regulator, it would not turn on, and it released some kind of hissing sound. With a little bit of troubleshooting, I narrowed it down to the regulator. Replacing it with a new one fixed my issue, and we were ready to move on. Following a diagram I found on the internet, which I will include a link in my description, I was able to make the reset button to work again. For this, I needed to cut off the original button from a power supply and replace it with a new one that was connected to the Raspberry Pi. For the heart of the Raspberry, I chose an 128GB Kingston memory card, which was enough for my needs. To make the console to work again, we need to install an operating system to the SD card. The OS that I have chosen is a slightly modded version of Retropie, which has the theme and the boot up sequence loaded of the PlayStation 1. After downloading the OS, we plug in the SD card in the computer and install it using Raspberry's official software. After the installation was complete, it is time to test our project. Okay, so this is fantastic. We have a working console. All that is left to do is to fill it up with some games and it's done. I must say that I wasn't expecting it to be this good. Although it is an emulation, I can barely feel any different. It is spot on as the original with the exception of the HD graphics. The Raspberry Pi 2 Model B handles it pretty well without any hiccups. I can't feel any lag or stuttering whatsoever. The only thing that is a great balance is the capability of using a wireless controller with a Bluetooth adapter. I am using a scuffed PC4 controller and it's a much better feeling. It's like feeling the future at your palm while still keeping some of the originality. This console is not going back to storage, it will remain under my TV as the ultimate PlayStation 1 retro gaming machine that I built myself. At the end of the day, with all things said and done, this is a major success in my eyes. I've stepped down to build a console sort of say that will play my PlayStation 1 games at HD graphics with wireless controller connectivity, and it's nailing it. Yes, I know that I can simply download an emulation software and play them that way, but that is not the point. I wanted to have that feeling of turning it on and playing the PlayStation 1 just like I did when I was a kid. I admit it, I do get that feeling in some kind of way, and that is all that matters. Feel free to leave your opinion on my project in the comments of what you think about it. But before that, thank you for watching. If you like what you see, feel free to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care and bye.